Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder here at Boomer Consulting, and with me today is Sandra Wiley. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, John. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for being here. As most of you know, Sandra is the president here at Boomer Consulting, and we have a great topic for our conversation, and that is how firms should be creating an L&D strategy, a learning and development strategy. Now, Sandra, I know you've been putting a lot of work into this area with a large number of firms over the last year or so, especially. But why is it important for firms to really think about, hey, we need a learning and development strategy?
Thanks for asking, John. So you're right. It's interesting that we have been going through this for the last 20 years, because almost 20 years ago, Boomer Consulting launched a learning and development symposium. And, that was when learning and development was first starting to kind of get exciting and firms started knowing they needed it. We have evolved so much since then, both at Boomer and in our profession. And you ask why it's so important. I mean, honestly, look at any part of a CPA firm that you manage and ask yourself, if everybody stopped learning and didn't develop their skills anymore and didn't develop career paths, what would happen to the firm? We oftentimes get so focused on growth and how do you grow your firm? If you're not growing, you're dying. I would also tell you, if you're not learning, you're dying and you're growing backwards. And so in every single position within the firm and every single initiative within the firm, we have to be learning. The problem is that unless there is some structure around it, it kind of it goes on the back burner for everybody. Everything else becomes more important. So the firm has to commit to making that strategy happen.
Absolutely. So what solutions or ideas, how do you see firms kind of tackling this? It can be overwhelming to think about, how do I create an L&D strategy for the entire firm, especially if you're a large firm? How do you see firms approaching this?
So it depends on the size of the firm, but if you are a mid-sized to large firm, and I'll focus there today, but if you're a mid to large firm, the first thing you have to do is commit someone to doing the work. If it's just somebody's part-time job or a weekend job, it's probably not going to take off, and it's probably just going to kind of be sort of there, but not really doing what you want it to do. So you've got to have somebody. Once you get to about, I'd say, an 80-person firm, 70 to 80 person, you need a full-time L&D person, that's their job. And by the way, that is not someone who necessarily has CPA behind their name. That is someone who's been trained to be a teacher, right? A trainer. And maybe not a grade school trainer, but an adult teacher. How they understand curriculum. They understand how to build out what people need. And then the second thing I would tell you is that person doesn't have to do all the training, right? They need to be there to figure out what training the firm needs and then find the resources to do that. So it's very interesting to me that it all starts with communication. The best teachers and trainers I've seen in firms today spend enormous amounts of time interviewing everybody in the firm, figuring out what they need, and then they put together a plan, much like a strategic plan, only a learning and development plan that says, this is what we are going to teach this year, and this is how we're going to get the right resources to the right people. So it's a professional, very strategic position, but that's what firms need to do. Now, here's the sad part. Most firms are not willing to invest there, and because they think it's a fluffy position. They think it's not strategic. They think it is not going to help them grow the firm. It is quite the contrary. It will absolutely help them move their firm forward, but they don't understand it because they didn't learn that way. So I think that's it. I mean, it's all about getting the right people, having the right conversations, building the plan.
I was speaking with a partner of a firm in the Midwest. This was yesterday. Their firm is just over 100 people. And one thing he said related to this topic, which I found really interesting, he said, if we leave our people to themselves to determine their own learning, then by default, most people in our profession go to technical training. They just say, oh, here's the technical training I need. And he saw a big opportunity to actually create a structure like this of an L&D strategy that made sure that it wasn't just the technical training. So are you seeing a lot of non-technical, maybe even non-traditional training happening in firms?
Yeah, much like firms are shifting a little bit away from only CPAs working in the firm, the L&D is shifting away from just the technical training. Now, I don't think you and I, either one, would say, well, we don't need that technical training anymore. Of course we do. But that is the easy stuff to get, because the ASCPA and other the state societies, they are full of resources to give you the technical training that you need. The piece that is missing, and the piece that I always ask people this: think about the last 3 or 4 people that have ever been fired in your firm, and ask yourself the question: were they fired because of technical expertise, or were they fired for something else? And that something else is probably they weren't very good communicators, they didn't know how to manage their time, they were unmotivated, whatever, those things are. And they're all soft skills or core skills. And that is where we need to find what people need. But the problem is, if you ask anybody, in fact, if John, if Jim sat down with you and I and asked us a question, what training do you need this year? We might have some thought about what we think. The problem is that it's what we think. We may not see everything, right? We're seeing through our lenses and our glasses. Somebody who's a professional who can sit down and talk to us about our career path and where we're going and what the firm is doing and strategically what the firm needs, they can help us see, I know you didn't mention it, but I think what you could really use is maybe some training around closing the deal. That would be a really good class for you, right? So that would be, and so I think having the right person, again, that can interview you well and that can dig deep and find what you need, that really just benefits the individual and ultimately the firm. So it's all about having the right expertise and asking the right questions.
So, as you work with firms on this, and I think it was just a few months ago, you and I were actually on a call with a few dozen firms around this specific topic. So, there's a lot of firms out there moving the needle in this area.
Yeah.
Some quicker than others, but speak to us a little bit about some of the benefits you're seeing. So, a firm that actually does create and roll out an L&D strategy, what are some of the benefits that the people are experiencing in those firms and the firm itself?
We'll start with individuals. The individuals in the firm, they feel like they are important. They feel like they are valued because the firm is investing in them by getting someone who's really working with them and helping them develop a career path. So the first value that is felt is at the individual level. And, that's going to help with retention. That's going to help with promotion. We see a ton of succession happening right now. If you think you want to figure out how to have everybody ready to succeed, right, and move up, this is the way to do it. The second thing we see is at the firm level, the partners and the leaders of the firm are seeing their people be motivated for the first time, sometimes in a long time, where they feel like, oh, wow, this is something that's really exciting. And they are seeing that their people are more motivated. So therefore they are getting more of that really great work out of them. So that is a big part of that. And then just overall in the firms that have really put a emphasis on learning and development, and they're giving their people the core skill training, the technical training, the consultative training that they need, those are the firms that are growing faster than any other firms out there. So we know that there's a direct correlation between teaching and training people, and then also the growth of the firm and the health of the firm. That, again, I'll go back to, sometimes we look only at the number that says how profitable we are and how much revenue we brought in, but there's another one that's that retention rate. Just this week, I've talked to 2 firms this week. One of them, their turnover rate was right at 25%. And they do not have a learning and training person. They said, we need someone that'll help us with that, but we don't have anybody yet. And they're big enough to have somebody, and their people are just tired. They're tired of asking for training and not getting it. And so they're in a world of hurt, and they're going to have to fix that. The other firm invested several years ago in an L&D professional, and they have 2% turnover. And their people are super happy, And they are growing at a clip of anywhere from 10 to 15% each year, even in a pandemic. So last year I said, gosh, I know that you grew 15% in 2019. Had 20 come out? And they said, well, we were still at about almost 11% now in a pandemic and only 2% turnover. So there is something to it. There is, if you get the right people. And the other thing, and I haven't said it, but, and I sometimes I think it should go without saying, that person has to be completely held up and be seen at the C-suite, right? They have to be a high-level individual in the firm, and the partners have to be totally behind it. And if that happens, magic happens.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's good. So as with most topics in our profession, other professions are dealing with this as well, or thinking about. So what are you seeing outside the accounting profession as it pertains to learning and development strategies?
You know, it's similar to what we should be seeing in our profession, which is a real focus on L&D. But you know, if you look at outside, and you know, you and I both have started looking outside, because that's where we get a lot of our great ideas to bring into the profession, is to look outside and see what are some other folks doing that maybe are a little ahead of us in their movement. And what we're seeing is not one career path and not one training program for everybody in the firm or for everybody in the company. Let's have different career paths and different training paths for different people with different skill sets. And that's what I'm seeing outside. And I think that's what we have to bring into this profession. So for so long, and for those of us that have been in this profession for a long time, the normal course of action for a CPA firm is up and out, right? It's either you're going up and you're gonna be a partner, or you're out of here. And you don't have a career path that says, you know what, you could be here for the next 30 years. You don't have to be a partner. There are other career paths there for you. And some of them don't require having a CPA behind your name. A good learning and training development program will help you figure out what those paths are. And they will help you develop a firm that is much stronger in their depth and breadth than what we have seen in the past. So, and that's coming directly from firms or companies outside of our profession and bringing that strategy in, and it is working.
Nope, that's great. So let's say there's a partner or managing partner listening to this podcast right now, and they're thinking, all right, Sandra's right. We have to do something in this area. What's the best first step they could take?
So I'm going to give you a first and a second step.
Okay.
So the first best step is really reach out to someone who will help you figure out what the job description would be and what that roles and responsibilities of that person would be and who you're looking for. So don't go out and just look for a CPA who has done some training before, or don't go into your firm and go, well, you know what, you've done a few training sessions. Let's just make you the learning and training development person. Make sure you reach out. And I mean, you are willing to talk to people. I would be willing to talk to people, but get some help in developing what that structure looks like. And the second thing I would tell you is then go to your partners and make sure you sell it to them and make sure that they understand it, because you got to have them on board as you bring that person into the fold. And then the last thing I say, don't let them be all by themselves once they get there. So you bring in this amazing trainer. They're going to be the only person like them in the firm at first. They're the only people that are like them. The rest of you all have other people that are like you. You have your peers and you have your tribe. They have just them. You got to make sure you sign them up with some tribe, right? You got to get them some help, getting somebody that'll be like them. And so having a community that they can plug into and understand this profession is imperative to success. So yeah, that's what I would tell that managing partner.
All right. Excellent advice. Excellent recommendation. So Sandra, I know you're really active on social media. And as we close out our conversation here, where can people find you?
You know, you can find me obviously on LinkedIn. I think that's always a great place to start. So just Sandra Wiley and you'll find me there. If you want to go to Twitter, I have a presence there and I love Twitter and I'm still there. And then if you want to look at Facebook, I absolutely would do that, because now you'll have to deal with my grandchildren pictures and all of that, but I also have a presence there. I also would just tell you that if you can always reach out to me by email and I would be happy to help in any way that I can.
Awesome. And your email address is sandra.wiley@boomer.com. So Sandra, as always, thank you so much for taking time to chat about this topic for our listeners. We release new episodes every Tuesday, so please stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, Sandra.
Thanks so much, John. Have a great day.